in the world? Anyway, let's talk about TT1 against Puzzle. Puzzle was #1 in the North American Star League, and basically it's a thought process of Hero was not able to take out Puzzle. TT1, how the hell are you going to do it, man? Yeah,
TT1's going to have a tough time, but you know what? TT1 has... Again, he's been playing this matchup a lot, and I've been watching him try to theory craft with Rotterdam and like how you can do certain pushes and whatnot, but Phoenixes are just always so weird to match up against. Now, and Puzzle style just makes it seem like as long as you're not early pressuring, like we were talking about during the break, if you early pressure and force a lot of sentries out of Puzzle, then he can't make as many Phoenixes, and that will limit him. But a lot of Protoss players have been playing more defensive. They've been placing that Robo quicker. They've been getting 2-gate Stalkers and then teching. And as a result, that gives players like Puzzle a lot of flexibility to really capitalize on that and play greedy as he wants to.
It is interesting to actually use Stargate play, though, on a map like Shakur's Plateau, where Blink Stalkers are very strong. I think Blink Stalkers are actually one of the main builds that you go on Shakur's Plateau. That and maybe Robo Expand, something like that. But to go Stargate Tech against the metagame, I feel is a pretty big risk, but still I'm sure that Puzzle knows things that I do not, or maybe 99% of pros don't. In his build and how to accurately defend against Blink Stalkers. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of his PvP. Obviously, he is such a competent player, as we saw him took out Hero 2-1 for seedings. If you guys missed that, please go watch them.
It was a great series.
Those matches were amazing, man.
And this match will be amazing too. I want some more amazing series, Andre, because Mr. Bin and Rotterdam have been getting them non-stop. Now, what's kind of cool is that TT1 has been delaying everything. He got a 13 gate. He got a 15, 16 assimilators. He's spending all of his chrono boost on probes. TT1's been playing this very economically minded, trying to squeeze in a little bit more. You may not see the big difference, but his cyber core is slightly later. His second gas, of course, is a little bit earlier, but he's just been trying to cut a little bit more corners. But that's, again, how TT1 is adapting his opponent. You can see TT1 drops that second gate.
Oh!
Wow.
Man or pylon, ladies and gentlemen.
4 probes.
Man or pylon. This is the worst possible thing.
Wow.
Holy crap. 5 probes, just to let you know, is a very large amount of income. He can cancel it right here and be fine. No, he's going to complete it.
Lol.
Wow.
Only Puzzle would try to squeeze in something like that. Puzzle, of course, it does have his second gas as well.
Oh my god.
And he's going to chrono boost out his first Stalker initially to really try to pressure his opponent. He sees the 2 gates from TT1, but TT1, his Stalker is pretty delayed as well. That was a pretty pimp play, man. Isn't there? There's a Brood War thing where it's like the pimpest plays of the year.
Oh my god, yes, but it only worked for like 2003 and 2004.
Yeah, I remember that BC play where he like puts a pylon down and blocks the mineral path with gateways. That was so sick.
There were so many of those. And that just brought me back. Now it's like nostalgia 100%. 2 double chrono boosted gateways are going to pop out right here. I love the direction where Puzzle is going with this. He's going to fake some sort of pressure in this early game stage with Zealot and 2 Stalkers. And what he's basically going to do is say, hey, I'm going to lose this initial Stalker to sell that it is some sort of gateway pressure in this beginning stage. Now, normally Protoss at this level won't actually buy into this, but it is small indications. He's trying to look at what his opponent is actually capable of. And right now he's trying to make like a fake read and trying to get his opponent to be playing as inefficiently as possible. Look at this. TT1 is actually going to snake behind, though. And this one Stalker, okay. That was close. I thought this one Stalker was going to try to blindside everything, but no, he doesn't do it in time. I would have loved 2 Stalkers, actually, to be over there. And then you trap it. 1 Stalker here, 1 hit Stalker here.
Great idea from Puzzle. Also, just squeeze in that probe, just try to distract his opponent and get a good scout. And he sees the robotics from TT1, but the robotics is pretty delayed. As you can see, Puzzle went for a 1-gate robo immediately. TT1 has that pylon also on the low ground that's going to be canceled, but again, it was just another way to threaten lots of mind games at this stage of PvP. Lots of high intelligence players trying to make their opponent think one thing, but it's really the other. And with TT1's base being scattered, I mean, there's no point. I mean, Puzzle knows everything, so there's no fear of that pylon whatsoever.
That's exactly right. And with the slight robotics facility advantage, we're most likely going to see something like drop play. I think whenever you have the robotics facility advantage and you know you have it, go for that warp prism. You have the extra time. That's where you want to get the advantage out. And you can do immortal drops, you can do sentry drops, anything really. What you're going to do is force your opponent to play a lot more defensive than they want to be. And if you stuff the warp prism over here, they can never reach it. So it's always something that they have to be careful about. And it allows you to play a lot more aggressive in terms of taking map control.
Wow. And we're talking about playing aggressive and taking map control, but TT1's playing a lot more aggressive with his economy. He's getting his Nexus slightly earlier than his opponent. He's getting his robotics bay faster than his opponent. So TT1 really trying to cut a little bit corners to catch up in the tech department. That's what he'll get. He'll get the time since Puzzle is expanding himself. Now the big thing is that when Puzzle gets 2 base, sometimes he's really quick to get a 3rd base even quicker, get 6 gas, and turtle up to that Colossus Death Ball and get that Mothership up. That's what we saw when he played against Hero. So what TT1 really has to be cautious is really make sure that Puzzle can't sneak in that 3rd, because Puzzle, he's also a greedy player as well.
Yeah, he can be when he wants to be. Now both these players going for Colossus, meaning we're just going to have War of the Worlds. I really think the Warp Prism should be utilized though in this position. But I think actually both these players are pretty even, especially with the fact that the sentry counts are pretty even as well. Sentries obviously don't really do much against Colossus armies, as Colossus can really just walk over things and everything's good. Back up actually, and then the Colossus will just go to town on each other's units. So I like what we're seeing from both these players. We do see Puzzle taking the slightly faster 3rd gas. That is pretty important to note. But we have seen in the past TT1 doing a lot of just 2 gas timings, where he just goes a lot of Zealots at this stage and then just pumps all of his gas into Colossus and hits at a time that's very inconvenient for the other person. The other person really hasn't been able to utilize their gas count, and that exchange of minerals actually makes up for a little bit of the difference. So we're going to see if TT1 actually does that. It looks like he is also seeing as additional gateways and no more chrono boosts or probes have been added.
Andre, you say that Colossus for Sentry isn't that bad, but according to the new rounded DPS per supply chart, Colossi are at 18.2 DPS per supply, and Sentry's at 18.
Oh.
So I guess by that means Colossi are just as efficient as Sentries.
Wait, is that real?
No, but the thing is Colossus has splash damage. That's the reason why. And because Colossus is just a lot of supply, what they're basically trying to indicate by that chart is that Colossus is really supply intensive, and that's why after a certain point, it's not as efficient as having
by
something
supply.
else.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm not trying to rag on that guy's work. The fact is that he put up the information.
That means
really
we should
helpful.
only get
make Sentries, because they can do. I can't
Do you
force
remember
field.
the days we would actually
force
see that, by the way?
Huh?
Do you remember the days we would actually only see Sentries out in the field?
I know, those were kind of silly.
I know. It was like, I don't even want to get into it too much, but it was just like blankets of force
fields. What were the days
fields.
when we only saw Colossi in the field, too?
That was awesome.
Like 1 Zealot, 1 Stalker, 1 Sentry, and a Colossus. It's like a group of misfits all going together. And then the Sentry would drop a force field, Colossus accidentally steps on it. It's like, oh, Colossus, why you step on my force field?
Remember the days where you could actually push out Colossus of the force fields?
Oh, yeah. You could, like, hallucinate Colossi and stomp force fields.
No. You could, back in the day, force fields were indestructible. You couldn't kill them any way you looked at it. So like you would actually force field.
Beta,
yeah,
right? I didn't play in the beta, but I heard about that. That's absurd.
Sentries were actually the most imbalanced units in the world.
Well, at one point, a lot of units had that title for a long time, but thankfully we've seen a lot of evolution. Even in PvP play, Sentries do have their place, as controlling space around Colossus can be just as important as controlling the Colossus themselves. Because you can force a Colossus to try to move and break the force fields, but then they are not adding DPS, they're getting out of position. So there's actually some pretty interesting things if you sprinkle in 3-4 Sentries, which is what both players have at this point. You can see that TT1 has been maintaining a pretty good probe advantage, though, because he's really been squeezing out. We've been talking about TT1 trying to cut some corners in terms of catching up. He doesn't have as many units in terms of certain areas, but he does have a good amount of probes. Correct. And that's a good thing from TT1, as he's really starting to sneak his way in.
And I'm sorry, I was a little bit biased. I know TT1 has, well, the PvPs that I've seen, he does do 2 base timings, and I was like, okay, we're most certainly going to see that. I was absolutely wrong. TT1 is just going to macro from here. I think he just stopped making probes and everything like that because he was scared about potential stuff that could happen to him. But he's just playing absolutely safe. So I like to see that. Obviously, TT1 gearing up for a third base pretty soon.
Yeah, they're both trying to scout each other, see their third base time. You can see the observers parked right by TT1's third, and TT1 moved in and tried to pile on block, and they're trying to get a sense of the timing of the third, because if they ever do, they're just going to move out and try to punish them for it. But neither player is biting at this point, really trying to take the safer route. You can see immediate Templar Archives about to finish for TT1, giving him that ability to get Archons out into the field. But is that kind of premature, you think?
Not only is it premature, I don't agree too much with High Templars. I like the Dark Templar route, as it's a lot less.
Archons.
Yeah, it's a lot less gas.
It's hard to say though, because now that they both have 5-6 Colossi, that's pretty much what they need to be safe in terms of being able to gather everything. You can see TT1 is moving out to the bottom right part of the map. And he does have a lot of pretty good things lining up in terms of more gateways in charge, and he does have his Templar Archives done. But the big thing is that TT1 doesn't really have that great of a position if he wants to hit that third, unless he moves down to that lower ground. But that provides some really weird positioning. That's why Cloud Kingdom kind of puts some kind of weird question mark on how to engage properly as against Protoss with Colossus. Because the surface area can be so awkward sometimes.
That's why normally after like the mid-game stage, nobody wants to really fight.
Yeah.
And both of you actually go into the stage where it's just like, okay, let's wait until 200, 200. It's very hard to actually make the right reads to say, okay, engaging here is correct or not. But here we go. Charge is going to work for both of these players. The Colossus going to town on the Zealots. Who's going to come out ahead? I have no clue, Frodan.
Oh, TT1 has a Colossus flanking, adding some good DPS. Puzzle has to fall back. Those Archons absorbing some pretty decent damage as well. The Immortals are not really able to get to the Colossus. We do see TT1 is moving in, and he does have a pretty good surface area compared to Puzzle. And this third is going to have to be canceled at least. But actually, you know, Puzzle's going to use that Nexus as a way to choke up the Colossus as well. It's getting very, very tight. And now there's really only Colossus remaining, so both players have to be really cautious because it's very easy, as great Colossi are. They're so fragile.
Great engagement from TT1. And look at this. He's going to go, oh no, TT1 is actually going to fall behind in the upgrades. He's at 1-1, but 2-0, I believe, is valued over 1-1. I'm pretty sure it outputs more DPS than the extra armor actually has.
Well, Colossus does have 2 attacks, so it kind of equals out against certain people. That depends on how things play out, but we'll see that TT1 does have his third, but the big thing is that Puzzle's third is already half dead. Now, TT1 is playing with a very dangerous game because he's pushing himself into the bottom area of this map. And it could be very all or nothing. It can work beautifully for him, but it also could work very terribly depending on how Puzzle reacts if he sets up a stronger concave.
Wow. I thought he was going to actually try to snipe the Nexus, but now he's giving chase. Oh my god, that's a lot of Colossus behind there. He does not want to engage. It's going to be very difficult for both these players, but it looks like TT1 will finally just leave it be. Income tab shows 60 to 51. TT1 slightly ahead, but is behind in those upgrades now.
Yeah, and the big thing what I was saying that it could have gone either way is if TT1 uses that Nexus as a way to kind of chop up Puzzle's army, not allow him to get a better concave, TT1 would have been okay while poking. But the problem is that Puzzle fought for position really aggressively, and TT1 was not able to set up. And that was a good read by TT1 to back off immediately. Now, he did lose a Colossus.
Oh, no. TT1 is splitting up. I don't know if this is the best way. But it's going to be very difficult to actually read this if this is the best decision or not. It's hard to coordinate both your sides to actually press into the units in a right way, and all Puzzle has to do is just isolate one of the sides, try to section the other one off, and then really focus on killing everything on that side. We're going to see. Oh my god, it's gearing up.
Well, TT1 is moving in here, and he doesn't have necessarily the best concave again with those Colossus. Puzzle sets up very nicely, and TT1 will be fighting inherently at a disadvantage attacking into that. Just because, again, the Colossus won't be able to DPS to write things out while Puzzle has everything in position.
Oh, excuse me. Zealots being warped in on the top left-hand corner, taking out a lot of the probes of TT1. TT1 forced to fall back. 11 probes being killed there.
Wow.
And the worker advantage finally, after 20 minutes of play, going to Puzzle's advantage. This is the first time in the game where Puzzle is actually going to be able to sit back and not worry about a thing. He's the one that's going to be able to press on his opponent.
Yeah, that's really hard to see too. Pink and yellow on the mini-map is really hard to spot. Great pick, Andre, there. As you can see, that Puzzle now has 3 bases as well as TT1. It now defaults to the very late game stages of PvP. Now we see that TT1 is really prioritizing double forge upgrades, which will help him in the long run, but we see that Puzzle has a pretty decisive advantage and should start thinking about when to drop his Stargate and get his fleet beacon out for his mothership. If he chooses to do that at all, he's moving out though, because I think he feels like he has a pretty strong advantage in terms of timing.
Oh, he does. Look at the Colossus count, look at the Archon count. That's really important to note.
Oh, 8 to 5.
8 to 5 and then 6 to 5.
Yeah.
That's very substantial.
TT1 doesn't even have the Immortal advantage. It's also huge as well.
Yep.
Wow.
Everything's going to Puzzle at this point. Puzzle will push forward to the 3rd base, and this is going to be extremely hard to actually stop. I don't know a good way to actually do this. We're going to need a micro blunder from Puzzle if he actually wants to, or TT1 wants to win.
This is where the Zealots don't necessarily help that much because there's not that much surface area to flank. Puzzle does manage to get some good positioning.
Oh, actually.
The Zealots also push him in a lot as well, and Puzzle now has a huge Colossus account. You see the Immortal tries to go in for the flank, but TT1 is pushed back, and TT1 will end up losing a huge amount of space where he can back off, and a lot of his 3rd probes are under siege. The Colossi are tearing up the entire base of TT1's auxiliary expansion here at the 3rd. Now TT1 falls into a huge supply deficit, 96 to 159. A lot coming into those Archons and Immortals.
Both these players actually trading their 3rd bases. It looks like there was a big warping on the bottom over here, but he probably lost a lot of units doing that. Now finally, it looks like the last engagement is going to go down here. He needs to split his Archons as best as possible because they're taking all that splash damage. The Colossus moving in against CT1's Colossus. They're all going down.
Oh,
and Puzzle looks to be taking a 2-0 advantage. GG. TT1 falls. And
Puzzle
just like that, Korean
lead.
Smashing it up, taking a 2-0 lead so far in the first 2 matches.
These Korean Protosses, man, they're just so solid the way Puzzle played that. He played that patiently. You can see that, you know, even though TT was playing really aggressively, really trying to make Puzzle misstep once. In Colossus Wars, if you get out of position once, if your Colossus move commands once and you're not able to fire back and trade, then all of a sudden you're at disadvantage and you lose a lot of ground. TT1 was waiting for those moments, playing patiently. Puzzle would not get out of that moment at all, and when you realize he had an advantage, was able to really push up in that corner, because that position was the exact spot where TT1 wanted to park. He wanted to move in there and set up accordingly, but was not able to get that because at a certain point, you know, there's not that much return on investment with that many Zealots clumped up in that area. You want the surround, you want the flank. Not able to get that.
And he was trying to do the Zealot Archon timing where he just switches over perfectly and is able to have that extra layer. The Archons actually introduce something really, really unique, which is that range. That range isn't really the same in any other Protoss unit. Of course, it's just right between Zealots and Stalkers and Immortals. It's right there, and it gives you that ability to just tank so much Colossus fire. Obviously, it wasn't able to actually work out, and man,
tough stuff for TT1.
So good, man.
But you know what? TT1 has one more chance to do this, Andre. And TT1, we really hope you can pull your way back, but it's so hard.
He can't make a mistake from here on out.
I mean, there's no more mistakes left, and there's just no more opportunity for error. But you know what? It's one game at a time. TT1 wins game number 3, you can win game number 4, then climb back into the series. This game was brought to you by Twitch.tv, our partners for the stream. Thanks, Twitch, for everything, and I know some of the staff people are checking out the stream. You guys are awesome possums. We'll be back with game number 3. We already have the match choice. That's Ohana. It's going to be between Puzzle and TT1. Will TT1 make the comeback? Our beloved Root member, or will Puzzle, another Slayer's Protoss, make it to the NASL Finals in Toronto? We'll find out in just a moment.